Good morning to you once again. Before we get started in what I'm going to be talking about here this morning, it's on the theme of motivation. And motivation is something that begins within. I was sent a group of little sayings by somebody. I got in the email just recently. And a couple on here that are very relevant, I think, to where we're going this morning. And then there are a couple of others that I just kind of think are amusing. And so I want to give you one of those. Some minds are like concrete, thoroughly mixed up and permanently set. Isn't that neat? And then quit griping about your church. If it was perfect, you couldn't belong. But the ones that really give us a start here this morning are kind of a segue into what I'm going to be talking about is this. Don't give God instructions. Just report for duty. Isn't that needy? You know, I had a good friend, a minister, that used to use the expression, said, just show up and take your assignment. And I like that because so many of us are here to tell God how to do things, when the fact of the matter is, let's show up sometime and take the assignment. Yes, we have choice in order to be able to direct our course in life. That's the way we're created. But also, there's a guiding power within us if we just allow it to express in our life. And this is directly in line with an awful lot of what I'm going to be talking about, in line with what I'm going to be I always talk about. And then the other thing that is so powerful to me is the task ahead of us is never as great as the power behind us. Do we really believe that? On occasion, I have been asked by somebody who's approached me and said, Richard, I would like very much for you to come to our group, a civic group, our group, or whatever, and give a motivational talk. And I look at him and I say, sorry, I can't do that. I said, what do you mean you can't do that? I understand you're a motivational speaker. I says, no, I'm not a motivational speaker, if by that you mean I'm supposed to go there and motivate you. Have any of you ever gone to sales meetings to be motivated? And your sales manager or whoever the guest presenter is gets up and gives you all of this stuff and gets you all hyped up and you're ready to go. You go out and you sell great for the first 4 hours in the first day. And then by next week, you have to go back to another motivational meeting. Well, that's really the way that is. And I tell them, no, I says, I cannot motivate anybody. I can only hope to inspire people by something that I may say, might trigger an awareness within them or a new idea that may help to change their perception of things. That's a lot of words to say what I do, but it's really simply to present an idea that may resonate at some level within. And then out of that, there can become that which gets our moving. Motivation, simply, there's a lot of definitions. I looked them up. I have a whole sheet full at home, and I decided not to come and bore you with some of the motivations, the definitions of motivation. But I thought about it, and I think that motivation is just what gets us to do what we want to do. And it's that simple. And the realization that I've come to is that everyone is motivated. Everyone is already motivated. And if you don't know the effects of motivation in your life, look at your life. Because you see, I think there's what we might call positive motivation and negative motivation. That is motivation that moves you to do things that add value to your life, to the lives of others, to the context within which you live. And then there's motivation that kind of extracts it, or at the very best is just neutral, normal, does nothing. You say, well, how can that be motivation? That's to get you moving. Well, a lot of people need to get moving or want to get moving to do nothing. Or they get so busy, they're moving in so many different directions that nothing results as a result of that. What was it? Marcia and my wife and I, where is she? She's somewhere here. Oh, there she is, wifey. We're talking just the other day, and I quoted to her something that popped into my mind that I was trying to think about the other night, and it finally came to me. It took a few days, but it came to me. And that was a quotation I think that Yogananda made, Paramahansa Yogananda, the Indian saint that came to the United States in 1920. He wrote the book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And it goes something like this. He says, your kind of laziness is to be busy all the time. Think about that. Doesn't that grab you? Now, no one can be motivated. And yet I think everyone is self-motivated to some extent. You see, we always do what we would rather do than not do. And boy, would I argue with this at various times in my life. We always tend to do what we would rather do than not do. Every action that we take is some kind of a personal response or reaction to something that's going on in our life to fill some kind of a need or a desire. I remember a story that I heard about a young man. He was just out of school, and he was a smaller presence, a smaller frame, but a wiry young guy, and he wanted to go to work, and he heard that they were hiring down on the docks, that they needed men to load this particular ship. And so he went down and he talked to the head of the stevedores, and he says, I want to work. I hear you're looking for men to load this ship. And there were guys that were working there. And he says, yes, we are, but you'll never cut it. You're just too small and frail. And he says, I can handle anything that you have. And he kept bugging the boss. And the boss said, okay, you see that pile of anvils over there? Big anvil that, you know what anvils are, and the big steel things that blacksmiths work on. He says, load those. You go over and start loading those. And he turned back to his clipboard, and the young man went off. And the next thing you know, the boss hears this big splash. And he turns and he looks, and he noticed that the boy had fallen into the drink between the dock and the ship from the gangplank where he was loading. And he come bubbling up to the surface, and he says, throw me a line, help, throw me a line. And then blah, 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 he went down again, and he comes up again, and he says, so help me, either you throw me a line or I'm going to drop this damn anvil. Now, that's motivation. And sometimes I think the point that we have, that we want to make with something like this, is that sometimes we can push ourselves to the point, be motivated to do something that grows out of an obsessive compulsive desire to accomplish things and compromise ourselves. And I'm not talking about that, but I think it's wonderful to be motivated, to have whatever that is in us that is some kind of a response to life to fulfill some kind of a need. How do we motivate ourselves positively? We know the negative motivations. We've seen those things. They're usually involved in avoidance and fear and that kind of stuff. But how do we motivate ourselves positively? Well, I think positive self-motivation begins with a transformation of our attitude, or a change of our attitude. And our attitude is a combination of various elements. It's what we think, what we feel, what we do, how we behave, how these all come together to give us an attitude that allows us to be clearly focused on something important in our life, and then to apply that. But in being motivated to do something, we need to be convinced, I think, that the benefits that are going to come as a result of what it is we want to experience far outweigh the price that we're going to pay for it. And that makes sense. And let me go back just a little bit. Years ago, when I was not in the ministry too long, maybe 10 or 15 years. I've been in it for 36 years now.